Last time I saw a hand go that spoopy, a chainsaw was involved. Before we get too far into this week's review, I just want to point out two things really quickly. Number one, if you hear any weird noises, it's because I got the window open. It's starting to get warm up here in the attic because we're starting to get into summer, so that is why I need to cool myself off, otherwise I might pass out midway through the review. And the second thing I want to point out is a big thank you to everybody who watched and liked last week's video. It always does me a power of good to see the constant support I've been getting from doing these videos. And if you want to see more from me, give us a little bit of a comment, give us a little bit of a like, maybe subscribe to the channel if you really want to, or just click the bell. These days you gotta play the algorithm game, because YouTube is an increasingly scary place for small content creators like myself, so it's always good to support your local small content creator, because it will always do them a power of good. Doesn't have to be me, it could be anyone you like. Hey, how about this? How about you like the next video that you watch? Doesn't have to be one of mine, it could be anybody's, whether a large, small, medium YouTuber, doesn't matter. Give them a support, give them a thumbs up, and, you know, have a great day. Anyway, back to the review. This week's episode was a more lore-heavy affair than we've had in quite some time, with most episodes up until this point being focused almost entirely around the fight sequences, which is fine. I mean, I've been enjoying the fight sequences up until now, as I've said in all the reviews I've done till this point. But, you know, I've been wanting for something a little bit more substantial in quite some time, and we finally get it now, with more of an exploration of what makes One For All tick, and Midoriya's relation to it. And I just want to say here and now, I'm probably going to get the name One For All mixed up and confused and get it mistaken for All For One, so please, forgive me, it's a really easy thing to do. With that said, however, I do have to say that I have been enjoying the fact that we've had these fun fight sequences up until now, and the fact we are actually getting something a little bit more substantial is a nice change of pace. We've had little teasers of it up until now, but this is the first time it feels like in quite some time where we're really getting more into the nitty-gritty as to what makes One For All tick, and the nature of it in far more of a deeper way than we've had before. Whilst it isn't quite as visually or emotively impressive as the flashback sequence from a few episodes ago, it certainly is something that does feel as though it's setting up the direction for the rest of this season. I can probably take a hazard of a guess that we're probably going to end up seeing Midoriya unlocking another 2 couple powers in this whole raft of powers that he's got by the end of this season. I grant you that's probably not the boldest prediction in the world, but as we know from previous videos, mean predictions don't really go all that well together, and chances are it may only be one more power. If he does unlock any more powers this season, or indeed in the future, I want the nature and the way in which he unlocks them to be a little bit more, or rather a little bit less convenient. I don't want it to be a case of, oh, he has to traverse some wide gaps to unlock some kind of flying power, or he has to blast through a big heavy metal door so he unlocks a fire power. I don't want this to end up becoming just a series of Deus Ex Machinas to get Midoriya out of whatever sticky situation he happens to be in. This week's episode with the weird tentacle powers, as convenient as that might be, at the same time it's damned inconvenient because he doesn't know how to control it. So it's not like this is going to be the power that's going to save the day for him and help him win in the end, but it could be the thing that helps tip him over. We'll soon see about it. The nature of these quirks and him unlocking all of them is something I'm still a little bit on the fence about. It's the one thing that a character that was set up as having no quirks and not needing quirks to be a hero gets a quirk, and then that quirk ends up being the super duperest megaest power that's ever been. And now that super mega power is now getting more powers on top of it, it kind of feels as though we're slipping a little bit too into cliched anime territory with a super powered main character, but you know what, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Up until this point, when it has come to powers within this show, there's always been a bit of a drawback to them, so I'm hoping that's going to be the case going to the future. Like this new tentacle power, I can't see this is going to be something that Midoriya is going to be using all the time because of just how difficult it is for him to control. I'll be surprised if we actually see it at all for the remainder of this fight sequence. Hell, we might not even see it again till the end of this season, if at all. So we'll see as far as all this is concerned, but for now, it's an interesting direction. I just hope they don't jump the shark with it. Fight this week between Class A and Class B was fine, it was fun, and it did the job. Though I feel that at the end of the day, it was acting more as a backdrop to the stuff with Midoriya than it was really the main focus of the episode itself. Which is fine. I mean, this is an episode which is focused around Midoriya and understanding One For All and all that kind of stuff relates to him. So having that stuff in the background is fine, even if I personally feel as though it should have been a little bit more explosive. explored. I said both explosive and explored at the same time, but whatever. It should have been something that's a lot more explored, because I do like the fact that these fights have been a way for us to get to know and understand these characters from Class B, to understand how they work and how their quirks work, to get to know them a little bit better. This is something that we're not seeing this week, and we're probably not going to see next week either, because of the focus being around Midoriya and his powers, which makes sense, because he's the hero of this story at the end of the day, so all the focus at the end of the day does need to be around him, but the fact all that stuff, even though the stuff with Class A, just feels as though it's just been pushed in the background in favour of Midoriya time. And even with the stuff that has been focused around Class A with this week's episode, it felt a little bit out of place. Like the flashback series sequence with Uraraka just felt a little bit, like, out of place to me. Like, I don't know what they're trying to say here, because we all know that she's into him, and we all know why she's a hero. So having that flashback sequence there just feels kind of weird. It just feels like a holdover from the manga, which may work better in a manga sense, but here, what are we supposed to learn here? That she's a good person, she wants to help people, she wants to be a hero? We know that. We know she kind of has a thing for Midoriya, so I don't know why we're really having that. Like, her going out to sacrifice herself to save him, great, that's a great fun moment, a great emotive moment. The flashback sequence kind of feels as though it breaks up the pace a little bit too much for my liking, but you know what, it was a neat thing to see, even if I don't feel it was terribly narratively necessary. As to where all this ultimately ends up going as far as this fight is concerned, as far as the rest of the story arc is concerned, and as far as the rest of the season is concerned, I can't say with any kind of certainty. As you know from previous episodes of my show, I ain't too good when it comes to doing predictions. My prediction score thus far is probably ranking at a big fat 0, so any kind of predictions as to what I'm going to do, I probably end up being wrong. Though with that said, I could probably hazard a guess as to what's going to happen in next week's episode. And that's not because suddenly I've developed some kind of sense of foresight, or I've developed some kind of algorithm that will predict with 100% certainty where all this is going to be going. No, 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 no. It's because yet again, I've had this episode, this show, spoilt for me again. This time, for once, not from the official wiki, just leaving key bits of character information, just leaving round on the character name list. No, no, no. This time coming from YouTube itself. In my recommended videos tab, there was a thumbnail and a caption that told me what effectively what's going to be happening in next week's episode. I hope that's not the case, because I don't want this sports show to be spoilt for me seemingly every other week. But it's looking like that might be the case. I don't know if it's the case. It might be relating to some of the storyline. Maybe something that we've seen before that I've forgotten about. Either way, I hope it's not the case, because yet again, we've had a major plot point spoilt for me, and I'm getting bloody sick of it. What is it with this show and its fandom for just spoiling stuff for everybody else? Look, I know people love reading the manga, and I got no issue with that. They're all the power to them. But what I've got an issue with is some of the YouTubers out there that are just willing to put key plot information in the thumbnails and in the descriptions of their videos. Just in the title. It's taking the bloody piss at this point, as far as that's concerned. Just give it a rest. Just keep it ambiguous. Oh, Midoriya does thing. Oh, or whatever YouTube. I don't know. I'm getting too angry for this. I mean, just need to wrap up the videos right now. So to wrap us up and to calm me down, thank you for watching this week's video. I ain't got anything else to say because I enjoyed this week's episode quite a bit. I'm interested to see where it goes. But what about you, dear listener? What do you think about this week's episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the content section down below, and I'll get back to you shortly, either in the comments themselves or towards the end of next week's video. And whilst you're there, be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, share, click the bell, and do all the YouTube stuff that YouTube wants you to, because YouTube is an increasingly scary place for small content creators. Support your local small content creator today. It'll do them a power of good. It's the times where you got to play the algorithm now, folks. That's just the way that it is. So if you saw an advert in this week's video, it's nothing due to me. It's because YouTube's going to YouTube. Thank you for watching, and goodbye! Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!